welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Folse. We've been bringing you updates on a triple murder in Lafourche Parish. And also, you saw State Representative Joe Harrison talking about that sinkhole in depth on Bayou Time tonight. We're going to switch gears, and I know there's a big presidential race tomorrow, along with a lot of other races that affect us locally. But on statewide politics, of course, committees are very important not only to the representatives or the senators who hold them, but also to the people they represent, because when a state representative is on a certain committee, it gives them the positional, advantage to bring things back to the area that they serve. State Representative Joe Harrison, who joins me again on another subject, was on the Appropriations Committee. And in his own words, I'll let him tell you, I'll paraphrase, he was told that if he did something to help another constituent get on, that he would be guaranteed a spot, but it didn't happen that way. So, Joe, I know I spoke with you when this was going down, and also your office, and politics is alive and well in Louisiana, isn't it?
Unfortunately, I don't quite understand. This is not what anyone who goes into public service would expect. If I give someone my word, I don't have to write a contract. I live by the very word that I gave them and abide by it. What happened was unfortunate for both myself and Cameron Henry. We're both Republicans. We're both staunch fiscal responsible individuals for our constituents, because I often say in appropriations, where that is actually where the money is dealt out from all committees and all bills, is that I never write a blank check with the people's money, and I never will. And in getting that, I think I earned my position there. I've been recognized for the work that I do. I read all the bills. I do give summaries on the bills. I write information and questions prior to, and allow the people that are bringing these items before us the opportunity to answer the questions that we have. And I've done that with both the administration and with the leadership in our House. What happened just recently was unfortunate, as I say, because I was told in this past, prior to this session, that by the Speaker of the House, Mr. Chuck Cleckley, and Chuck and I have a good relationship up until this point, that he needed a favor. You see, every district gets to elect someone to the Appropriations Board, and I put my name into the hopper for that position. He said, apparently you won the spot. And he said, I have already appointed someone from the west side of Louisiana, and I can't appoint another one from that side, although there is no one appointed from your area. But the difference is, an appointment, you can be removed. As an elected member of Appropriations, you cannot be removed. It is the real separation of powers part of our government. Well, what happened was I agreed to it with one stipulation, and is that to bring Simone Champagne on, that as an elected, because she came out second in the voting, that I would be assured that I could speak for the people of my district and for the people of the state.
And that was a favor to the Speaker?
Yes, sir. This was a big favor, in his words, to the Speaker. And he told me that I never had to worry about that he always respected me because of the hard work I put in, and that I could speak my mind and protect my people the best way that I thought I had to. Well, that changed. And when he said that, when he told me that I was off the board, and I asked him why, and he said, some people wanted you removed, and I asked who, and he wouldn't answer me. And he said, well, I said, Chuck, I'm asking you if you're a man of your word, because you told me if that would ever happen that I wouldn't have to worry about it, and apparently that's changed, and I'm asking you if you're a man of your word. And he said, do you know how many times I've saved you with the governor's office? And to which I replied that I work for the governor's office only as a separation of government, that I actually work for the legislature, which is the third arm of government. It's what we all learn in school. judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch. And then I actually work for him and not the governor's office, because that is our check and balance system. Well, needless to say, I was removed from the committee, even though I questioned how that came about, because if we stopped the vote on a contract that was given the Office of Group Benefits, it was because the law was broken.
And let me educate the public, bring them in so they don't get lost, but there is namely, which, you know, we could probably go back to the Richard Ayub days as governor when he tried something similar and he couldn't get it through.
No.
But the governor wanted Blue Cross Blue Shield as the carrier for Louisiana, and really it's supposed to go out to bid. And I think, if I recall, someone saying that there was at least another bid that might have been lower.
Yes.
And you pointed out several facts on this situation to the speaker, Mr. Clayco, and obviously, and I know you've butted heads with the governor before. Was this another instance where he went to the governor and said, we got somebody looking at this real closely, and then this went down with you?
Well, it was obvious. I mean, this is a major contract. This is a contract that we just can't sit idly by and let it go through without looking at it and doing our job. This is a $1.1 billion contract. Billion. Now, in reading these contracts, and I do that for a living, and looking at this contract, I said, we need to find out what they're doing in this contract and the mechanics of it. There was a company they hired called Buck Consultants out of the Northeast that are supposed to be leaders in the field of doing this, and made all the recommendations that they did. But what they did, we challenged, because the law states that only the legislature and the legislative branch of government has the right to enter and bind contracts. And yet, we had to challenge it and say, you can't sign that contract.
Wasn't that a ruling that came from court previous?
We've had precedent on this that goes back for years, yes. And the Attorney General came out we made the request on August 3rd. We got the opinion from the Attorney General on October 14th that said that only the legislature could do this, and that they had to come before the Appropriations Committee and present the contract. Well, the thing that should bother all of us, the executive branch, whomever signed it, we're still trying to determine that, signed it on October 16th.
After the Attorney General
After
ruled.
the Attorney General's opinion was already given that they didn't have the authority to do it. When I went to the meeting, these were the questions that I asked. Now, they gave us a contract 2 weeks ago. It was over 80 pages long. And it was given to us the night before, and they wanted us to sign it the next day.
Sounds like national politics.
Well, this was, you know, the old saying, the bums rush to get something done. Well, we were able to garner enough support in the committee at that time to stop the contract from being signed. And went back and had it this past week. So we had time to review it. I only asked, and this is the question, and I told the speaker, and I had over 20-something calls from the administration Wednesday, the day before the meeting. And I asked the questions that I wanted changed in the contract because it didn't protect. It left an open-ended contract, meaning that they could increase the prices of the premiums to the people who are retirees and active employees. And I said, the retirees are on a fixed income. The employees are on a fixed salary now. We can't just arbitrarily increase this and expect them to be able to come up with the money. We put enough hardship on our people now.
But why only one carrier? There were other interested carriers, right?
There absolutely were several other carriers. There's one carrier that's one of the largest in the nation that made a comment to me at the meeting. If this contract is signed, we will file suit because we were a lower bidder.
Which leads to my next question. Why not just open, why not make it a bid? Aren't they supposed to make it a bid?
They should have, absolutely.
Why did the...
They only have authority up to 250,000.
Right, so why, and maybe it's speculation, but obviously somebody really wanted Blue Cross Blue Shield. And when you circled the questions you had during that week, it obviously perturbed someone. And things fell from there, right?
Well, it fell, I think, a lot harder than they thought, because they thought they were within 1 or 2 votes. But thank God we had a whole group, and there were 9 votes over the amount needed to stop this action. There were some moves that were made that are pretty disturbing. The thing that bothers me is that during the meeting they changed 3 or 4 things in the contract because they saw that it left the open door for them to get more money. But yet they signed the contract before knowing that these things were in it. So this is where government started to work. That day we had government working the way it should. We were the check and balance to say no. I can't justify this when I know that we have people, 177 people are going to lose their jobs. 177. Now going back to the company that I said, Buck Consultants, that they hired to review this, is the same company that said at a meeting just a couple of years ago that if you want to follow a state that has the best managed health care program internally of a state, is very profitable, and is holding down the cost of their employees, it's the Office of Group Benefits of the state of Louisiana. I asked that question in a committee meeting, and I said, how just a couple of years ago they could say this to a whole group of people who were out-of-state actuaries, and then today change their mind and say we need to privatize it without knowing these facts and figures. I said, why can we not go out on bid? This is not a small amount of money. This is substantial. This is a very large number in our state economy.
What was the answer you got when you said that?
They said that they felt that they had a good contract at that point.
Isn't that similar to what some of the things that happened during the voucher process and the education, that you really weren't given a choice, and it was almost a mandate? This is what the governor wants. And it seems to me from talking to several people that, and I guess I can ask you directly because it happened to you this week, if you go against anything the governor would like to see get done, there's repercussions.
There has been numerous repercussions with people that have voiced their opinion on behalf of their constituents, and that's all I'm doing. I just asked them to be open and honest about what was going on, that it's our job as legislators to ask the questions that if anyone in my community would want to ask, I want to make sure it gets asked, and I open any of the public to do that at any time, because I'll do that. But to not have us as part of the process is a red flag. And it's the same thing with the vouchers. It wasn't an issue where I was against the governor. I've never been against the governor. I'm against policy. If it's bad policy, I will say no. And that's what we're supposed to do. The voucher program has proven to be a disaster at this point, and I only ask that we do the things that other states did, the check and balances that they had. We didn't do that. We have the most open, wide program of interpretation that there has ever been in the history of the United States. Other states have vouchers, and you work with that. But when I questioned, I said, if our parochial system takes this and takes public money, are they going to be subjected to the potential of having the AC have a cross, or you can't have a picture of a saint in a Catholic school? That was never answered. That was my objections. Are we going to say that teachers are not going to be subjected in the voucher system as the ones that are subjected in the public system? Those are the questions I asked. It wasn't to be an obstructionist. It wasn't to stop them from doing something that should be good for the state. I am there to do good for the state. But to not answer those questions, and now after the fact, as this has been, as the other things have been, they rush into it, they make a decision, and now we're paying the price.
And let's jump back to appropriations. You, of course, I know you enjoyed that committee because I've interviewed you a few times before on it. It's a very powerful committee because It's where the money's
That's right.
spent, where you decide where the money's going. So you've been, I don't want to use the word threatened, let's use politically strong-armed before, which is a process that's always been used in Louisiana government because of some of your stands. And I know one thing, you do read the bills that come through, and you do go through them, and you sift through them, and sometimes, you know, a person says the governor wants to do this, I'd like your approval. But you don't just give a blanket approval. You actually go home and read what it's all about, and you found things over the past, and you've approached the governor in the administration about things that you don't think are right. Yeah. And the retaliation was big this week. Do you think that came straight from the governor's office through the speaker?
Yes, I did. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, the sad thing is, a lot of this is choreographed. I have seen legislators go into meetings with questions that have been handed to them by administration, and they ask a question that makes the situation look good, and then they also have the response of what that legislator is supposed to say to them. So it's a role play. That's not supposed to happen. That's not what government's about. But the thing that bothers me about what we're doing is that we have committee meetings to be able to understand both sides of the question on any bill or any proposal like this. I told this to the head of DOA, or the Division of Administration, Christy Nichols. I said, why should we have committee meetings if you're going to call each one of us on appropriations the night before and say, are you for it or are you against it? I said, if that's the case, then let's just do it by ballot over the phone. I said, I don't make a decision until I go into the committee, I ask for testimony from the people that are involved, and I make an informed decision that's best for the people of my district and the state. You want me to do this the night before. There's something wrong with that. We don't need committees if that's the case. If you're just going to do this by force or by enticing, I said, because how many times have people been offered things in their district if they vote for it without even knowing what they're voting for? It happens every day.
Let me ask you this, because I really sense in talking with you that you don't feel like this is the first time that you've disagreed with something, and I think in both cases, one, there were a lot of people that thought education was being crammed down the legislation process, and the people didn't have a chance to react or make an educated guess. In this situation, you were asked to vote on a big thing for the state, which is health care, and a carrier, which I guess you had one choice, so you wasn't offered a choice, just like really there weren't too many choices in the educational process. I got to ask this. Is this becoming a my way or the highway Louisiana, or are there any discussions anymore? Or if you don't do what the governor says, you're out?
Well, I've heard this at least 30 times since I was informed I was off, that they fear, and even prior to this, that we're going back to the Huey Long days, that total control by one branch of government is happening, and that if you don't live and abide by what they want and their rules and regulations, then you're going to be pushed on the outside of the process. And that's, I guess, Martin, that's why I'm here tonight, is to say we need to stop this. We need to make sure that what we believe in government is actually happening, that we have three branches of government, that we're not enticing our judges on the judicial branch of government, that the executive branch isn't running roughshod over both of the other groups, the legislative and the judicial parts of it. Because if that happens, we then become what we've been told many, many years. We're a banana republic. We have one person running everything, and I fear that. And I'm not saying it's governor. It could be a whole group of people. But it's one that is not good for the people of this state. And it's not good that we're doing the things we're doing today, knowing that we have a charity hospital right here in our parish that could potentially lay off over 200 people. And then you add the 177 people that the Office of Group Benefits, and both of them have been good revenue to the state. They have done a good job. Yes, we do need to privatize in some areas, but you don't privatize the people that are doing a good job and making money for you. And that's what's happened, and it's sad.
When you found out, I got to take a break. I want to ask you a question. When you found out when the news was delivered to you and how it was delivered, we'll take a break. We have a few minutes left with State Representative Joe Harrison. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to Bayou Corne. We were talking with State Representative Joe Harrison, and of course we moved about the appropriations issue where he was not asked to return to the Appropriations Committee. You heard his story as to why that happened, but Joe, I want to, I guess, follow up and start wrapping this up. When Speaker Cleckley, I'm sorry, thinking of the football player Cleckley, informed you that you would no longer be on it. How did he do it?
It was by a phone call. He was out of state and said, look, I'm making some changes and I'm taking you off appropriations. I didn't get an answer why. And that today, I'm sitting here saying that bothers me because I've worked very hard. Again, I'm not an obstructionist. I voted with the governor's office many, many times. But when I do question some of the things that we could do better, I'm going to do it, regardless of if I'm on appropriations or not. I've been reassigned to the Commerce Committee, but I think that we've abdicated our authority as legislators. We really have. And I think that people need to talk to their legislators about making sure that we are an independent branch of the government, and asking them to voice their opinion when they see wrong things that are being done, money that's being spent that we don't need to spend, and laying off employees that we really don't need to lay off. Let's privatize where the failures are, not where the successes are. And those are the things that I relayed to the Speaker. I said, this is unfortunate. It's not something that I expected. I certainly would have expected to come into your office and discuss this issue with you, but to be called and to have Cameron Henry, who is also, we're part of the Fiscal Hawks. We challenged them for the last several years on issues like this. And I think we've done our job. And apparently we've done our job too good because we're not allowing people to spend money that we don't have and put people out of work that we don't need to.
Does the governor want a rubber stamp?
It looks that way at this time.
Okay. And is he getting it?
Well, they put two new people in our place on the committee, and I still think that they're going to be votes short unless they have, the answers to the questions that were asked at that meeting. People aren't going to stand by. There are a number of great legislators there, and there are some who are misguided, and then there are others who are making deals for their vote. We need to get our government back in good order and do the job that we're supposed to do. We got too many people struggling to make a living today. We have the highest insurance rates in the nation, both our homes and our houses. We have issues for our highways and every infrastructure. Those are the important issues we ought to be trying to dedicate money for, to get people enough money in their pockets to raise their families. But we also have problems with our educational system that we didn't take the time and should have had a special session, as I requested, to be able to address that, get the teachers involved, get the people, the ground troops involved to be able to carry the message and do what we all want to do and give our kids a great education.
Joe, I appreciate you coming by and talking to us both about the sinkhole and the Appropriations Committee and keep us posted. So
Yes.
what are you going to do from this point as far as committees, or what's your plan of attack?
Well, being newly placed from appropriations onto commerce is a good committee. It's an important committee because it is the commerce of the state, and I do have interest in that. Thank God I was able to get into that. But I'll still be diligent in finding out what's wrong. I'll go to these other meetings as I can as a state rep and give testimony, either for or against. I'll do what the people in my district elected me to do, and I continue to do that. And I welcome any questions that they have or any answers that I might be able to provide for them to make sure that they feel confident in what we're doing.
You know, just in closing, I was going through the internet, and you got a lot of response from being taken off the Appropriations Committee. People were upset about that. Are you getting all of those emails at your office that I saw on the internet?
We've had hundreds, and I mean hundreds. My cell phone apparently got out, and I had over 150 calls just Saturday. So people understand, and these are people in government, and they say this is wrong, and we need to get the word out and have somebody stand up for the right things.
Joe, thank you again for joining us. I appreciate you coming on board. I guess keep us posted.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Martin.
All right, once again, Joe Harrison, State Representative. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have the Patterson Police Department, and they're going to tell us about something that they're involved in, and we're going to be back in short order to talk about that, so don't go away.